All right, we are live. Link incoming. Brian, do you want it in the Telegram?
Yeah.
Cool. Just dropped it in Dip Catcher.
All right, I'll send it out to this small group people that I'm trying to get on Telegram, but they're just on iMessage. Like, what are you all doing? Okay.
I love the feedback you got last week with it. You let us in on um, about the guy who was like super bummed about your flow prediction.
Oh my
And then he
God.
was like, yo, I just put all my money in it. What do you mean you don't think it's gonna pump? It was just it seemed so ridiculous. Like what an interesting thing to throw all your money in.
I
Unless
know.
you're the founder, I guess. And even then you would never do that. So
Yeah. Some people just like they're just trying to get rich too quick, and that's the quickest way to go broke.
yeah, that was an interesting.
Yeah.
I love that he was mad at you.
I know that was like the first. I feel like that was the first like hater I've ever had.
Nice,
Usually,
congratulations. That's a big thing. You gotta have a hater to be real, right?
oh yeah,
Can't just have people that love you.
yeah. That was so funny. That's how you know that like that's how you know it's a good time to be buying stuff when people are just like so salty.
Mm-hmm.
They're like in the Telegram chat. Awesome. So I just sent the link out. Um, so we might as well just get started. Welcome back to another episode of Dipcatcher Radio. This is what our maybe I think we're coming up on our like 18 to 20th episode. Been doing this, since beginning of quarantine. Covered some really awesome topics around cryptocurrencies, decentralized finance, just all the craziness we've gone through. We've seen some wacky things unfold live in front of us, and just like we've been seeing a lot of craziness go on in the DeFi markets. And so this week, what we're going to be talking about is just like really like the anatomy of a crypto scam. Like there's so many different types of ways that people get ripped off in crypto, and it seems to happen more often when there's like peak euphoria and like peak hysteria. That's when like the scammers come out and they prey on new people who aren't just don't really know much and aren't able to kind of sift through some of this stuff. Um, and it's a really important topic because what's really interesting about the crypto space is that some things that look like they should be scams are totally legit and like good investments, but then things that look totally legit end up becoming scams. And so we're gonna kind of talk about just different types of scams that are out there and how you can avoid them, and then also maybe what we can touch on at the end is how you can profit off them. And so yeah, so this is very, it's really timely because we've been like just over the past couple weeks, we've been seeing a lot of these like scams because of all of the hysteria in the DeFi space. A lot of things that are either scams or just pump and dump bad investments. Um, you know, so some people have lost a lot of money in these, and so it's always good to be aware of what things to look out for, and if you're going to be investing in high risk things, how to build your risk management strategy around the risk of these things going to zero. We always talk about it in these where like um, you know in order for things to go up in price a lot, there needs to be some risk of going to zero. Um, and but the problem with scams is that like they're more likely to go to zero than not, and so the odds are just really not in your favor as other things are. So being able to avoid things that are almost certain to go to zero, that's a really good way to just make sure that like over time you're gaining money. Gaining money meaning in Bitcoin, in ETH, and Hex. Like you always want to be increasing your balance in those. Um, and not losing it all to like just some like random shitcoin that promises to be the next this or that, because most likely you're probably going to lose some money. Um, and so I guess where we can start is just kind of talking about just like overall like different types of scams that exist, because like there are a couple main categories. One of them is a Ponzi scheme. So typically Ponzi schemes are things where somebody is like raising money on some concept where they say that you're going to be getting a return on investment because your money coming in is funding some activity that they're going to pay you the profits from. Usually in the crypto space, some pretty big ones have taken a lot of people's money by saying that they're going to be running these like algorithmic trading bots that are going to, run these AI algorithms that are going to, you put $10 in and it spits you out $10 per week type of thing. They promise absurd gains. Usually they say it's some activity like trading, or even there's just even ones around cloud mining. So usually it's like an activity that you can't really see out in the open. Um, and they suck people into these, and people who get in early end up getting paid because the payments that they're receiving aren't coming from the activity that was promised. It comes from just new investors' money coming in. And as soon as the new investor money coming in starts to slow down, whoever are the people who are behind it, they run off with the money and those payments stop. And then you're left with nothing. And so Ponzi schemes are one that's not so. I mean, they kind of come in waves. Like every so often they appear. Not so much in the United States. I think Americans have been a little bit more resilient. They're like the USA was hit pretty bad by BitConnect, which here I'm gonna share my screen. BitConnect was a let's pull it up. There's actually some pretty funny videos related to BitConnect. But BitConnect was a Ponzi style scam going on in 2017. They told you that they were doing some type of trading, but it was really just a Ponzi scheme. And the chart, when you looked at it, let's pull this up. Like all of a sudden you can see right here when the gig was up, the gig was up. So like BitConnect like appeared kind of to be like a cryptocurrency, but it was really just a Ponzi scheme. And I don't know how much they made, but they got millions of people to pay money into the system, and some people were earning some people made a lot of money if they got in early and if they had a lot of referrals, because usually these Ponzi schemes have this kind of like pyramid style referral to benefit the people who get people in. So like some portion of people made a lot of money in this, and it came from people who lost a lot of money. So these are pretty dangerous to get into. I wouldn't even really recommend, some people make money on these, but it's pretty tough to be one of those like early insiders that just happens to be a backer of a Ponzi scheme that becomes successful. Like, for every BitConnect, that collects, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. Another example is Plus Token. Plus Token ran through China. Like in the US, we didn't really hear about it, but they had, it was estimated that they took possession of almost 1% of all Bitcoin through this scam. For every successful Ponzi scam that like maybe the early investors were able to recoup what they put in and earn a profit, there's hundreds of scams that don't work out. And so just overall, like these scams that sucker you in by telling you that they're going to be doing some type of sophisticated business activity like trading or mining, and then have some type of like referral thing. Those are like if you see something like that, you can pretty much guarantee that it's a Ponzi style scheme. And those are
Brian, when would you say was the last sort of most notable one? How long ago?
So Plus Token was, oh wow, Anatomy of a Ponzi. Here we go. So Plus Token happened in 2019. It actually started in 2018, and what's interesting when we look at the chart, a lot of the bottom, and I think we talked about this in one of our early streams. The bottom of the chart in Bitcoin in 2019, part of what fueled that like run up from like 3,000 to 14,000 was let's pull up Bitcoin. Let's just put up here. So a lot of this run up in 2019. So the Ponzi scheme was going on. I think I can't. It happened. It started sometime in 2018. So it was kind of it was like after this first like major like move to 20K and then like a long bear market. So it happened sometime in 2018. And it
okay,
really,
so it's recent. I mean, it's in the history books, but not not too far away.
Yeah. So this was probably because as these things happen, like all the people that like were dumb enough to like fall for it, like all the people that were dumb enough to fall for BitConnect, they now kind of saw how that played out, and those people are like less likely to fall for something else. And so like while there's always new people that like just have no clue, over time it is becoming harder and harder to like get people into these things, because people just kind of have some more awareness, and people are like more on the lookout. Like in like 2016 to 2017 when BitConnect kind of had its heyday, like nobody was thinking about like Bitcoin style Ponzi scams, but then that was like a big one, and then people kind of woke up to it. And then that was mainly in the United States, but then Plus Token was a big one in China. And so like literally like the day that the Plus Token scammers got arrested, it was something like June 27th. It was literally the top of this. And so all up until this point, Plus Token was collecting a lot of Bitcoin. They collected a lot of EOS. They collected a lot of Ethereum, something like $2 billion. And then the Chinese authorities like shut them down, and then the ringleader was like on the run. He may still be on the run. I don't really know. I kind of stopped following the story, but like the money was moving all over the place. People were like tracking it, but like I don't even know if he ever really got caught. And so like a lot of people like they thought that they were investing in this like Plus Token was supposed to be like a trading platform. But here's this actually shows. So these are like kind of like the main Ponzi style ones. So Plus Token took like $3 billion, which was huge, bigger than BitConnect. So these are like a Ponzi style one, China, Korea, and they would have these events in like these like snazzy events that they'd invite all these people to and get people sucked in. And they like so like these are pretty widespread things, but Plus Token was probably like the last big one that took a lot of money in, because people started to wise up, and also like people look to these types of things when like especially like when like Bitcoin, like just because there have been so many opportunities in other things, like people who want like high yield with like high risk stuff, you can find those opportunities like elsewhere. Like, in the DeFi space, there's a lot of opportunity to earn profit. And so, that competes with scams for money. And so that's like, probably the best protection from scams is just for there to be other competing products that aren't scams that are going to attract the money of people who would otherwise be tricked into going into a scam. And so since there have been a lot of really good investment opportunities over the last, say year, as we're closing into the end of the Hex kind of kicked off this like DeFi, market cycle. And there have been a lot of other opportunities even other than Hex in that. And so, that has been competing with scams for money, and so that's generally a good thing. it's kind of like a yin and yang thing where quality like projects that they compete for that money. Like when there's a lot of those and like people are making a lot of money and like new people are coming in, that's what the scammers are looking for. They're looking for people who this is their first rodeo. Like and so they, whenever there's like a lot of like hysteria, there's a lot of new people coming in. That's when like the scammers come out. And so I don't know of any ones in the DeFi space, and this is also something that like this whole like DeFi movement has really helped with, is that now it's kind of like a like table stakes for any type of like DeFi thing that you buy to like operate on a smart contract on Ethereum. And so these like these types of Ponzi scams where it's kind of like more covert, where like you just blindly send them the money and then like you don't really see what's happening. Those are like, people are less and less willing to do those because like there are other alternatives, for participating in, these types of like yield generating cryptocurrencies and yield generating smart contracts where you're actually doing it through a smart contract. And so it just feels less, less risky. So that has also kind of helped to combat against these. So, we'll probably always see these, but, these types of like, Ponzi scams where they, tell you that you're doing some type of cloud mining, or they tell you that you're doing some type of trading, or you're funding some type of trading business. I think that these will probably start to like phase out. And they've kind of been replaced. There's this whole like, and this is something that when last week when Daniel asked about what's going on in Tron, Tron has a lot of these like pyramid, they call them pyramid games. And these are like Ponzi scams, but it's like very transparent that that's what it is. It's like where, you're pretty much betting on how many people are going to join after you. It's like pretty much like a cut and clear like Ponzi game. I think like Pyrahex was one. Let's see if this is still alive. But like, there are all these, kind of like, they call them games because that's kind of what they are. It's like a Ponzi scam, but there's not like a scammer that can take the money from you. So it's like everybody just, so you're still kind of betting on like just people to be dumber than you are, but like at least you don't necessarily have the risk of like the person who's running it to like run off with the money, because like it's a smart contract that's paying out from new investors paying in. So, some of this activity is kind of moved into more like, or people treat like gambling. So they've kind of, that's kind of, they call them hourglass games. So I would not recommend like, get like doing the, like, there's so many better ways to make money than these. Like, people treat these like gambling, and, so I wouldn't really pay attention to any of these. But like a lot of the Ponzi style scams, I think have kind of transitioned into these types of ones where like, just because people have kind of wised up to it and it's harder to make money in that like scam business, a lot of that activity is kind of moved elsewhere. So those ones I don't think are necessarily as prevalent. And so other than like that category of scams, there's just like, what people might have called like, ICO vaporware, where people they're not like, scamming, like rather than like telling you that rather than lying to you about where like the return on investment is going to come from your investment in whatever thing they're doing. These are things where like people will just like come up with these like wacky ideas for some type of like blockchain based thing that's going to solve some crazy problem that you've never heard of, but they like assert is like a big problem. Usually like things like that, where it's just like those I would call more of like a money grab, where they're not like necessarily lying to you about, I mean, maybe they're lying to you about like their capacity to execute on whatever thing they claim they're building with the money that you're putting in. But like a lot of these, like let's see if we can find like ICO scam. let's take a look and see what we can see here. But a lot of these are mainly, just like fantastical things where they just like, it's just a money grab. They try to like put all these buzzwords and they prey on the hype, just so they can like raise a bunch of money. But then they just like, because when you invest in ICOs, like there's no investor protection. Like it's a bearer asset. Like, when you send them the money, like it's theirs now. And it's not like you're like entering any type of like contract where they're like legally obliged to do anything for you. A lot of these like ICO scams were, they're just money grabs. And so those are things that you don't want to invest in because, and if you do, you want to be able to exit like quickly on the first pump, because like, these money grab schemes that people do, like by telling you that they're going to like build some like crazy blockchain platform for dogs or whatever they say they're going to do. Like those types of coins just in general aren't really good coins to have, because they require some other business use case to like take root in order for like the coin to like work. And if like the marketing is just so crazy and it's like so fantastical, like that's another big red flag because, you're paying them before they do any work at all. So, it's like, they owe you nothing, and they're put in a position where they don't even need to try to build the thing because they've already made all the money that's like there for them to make. Like, because if they were to like build out the platform that they said they were going to build out, like that's a lot of risk and a lot of time to do that. And usually like these, that wouldn't gain them any money. So to them, like all the money they could have made has already been made. And so a lot of these like ICOs just kind of like, they raise a bunch of money and then that's the last you ever heard from it. And so definitely these ones that pop up around, during times when there's a lot of like legitimate ICOs that are having a successful launch or other types of new coins that are launching, that's when you start to see these pop up. But kind of like the vaporware ICO, like, that's kind of in the category of these, it's not like the Ponzi scams that like pay you by taking money from like a later investor. These Ponzi scams are really just like, where teams will like launch a token that they claim is going to be like some big thing. And then as soon as they raise as much money as they can, they just start, they have all the ETH, you now have a worthless token, and, they have no responsibility to do anything. So people like, people lose a lot of money on those too. And that kind of leads into kind of like a third category, which is, just things that are just like bad investments. So not necessarily like things that like the team who's behind it intends to like just like money grab and exit scam. These are things where like, they put forth a real effort into executing on what they said they were going to do. But it's just like that doesn't mean that the token value is going to go up. And so an example of just like not a scam, but just like not a good investment would be something like Simple Token. So we always talk about Simple Token because, I had that unique experience with them over a couple years, and, like they definitely weren't like, it wasn't like a money grab scam. Like they definitely executed on what they said they were going to do. Their whole plan was to build a platform for app developers to integrate their own branded cryptocurrency into their products for like payments and subscriptions and rewards and stuff. But and they built it, like they built their product, like it worked. But there just wasn't like a strong economic use case for it, because like, not that many apps want to build their own cryptocurrency. And then not many people, really care if like the cryptocurrency that they use in the Uber app belongs to Uber. And so, they were just like, and it didn't really like solve like a mission critical problem for businesses. So like we like in my VR camera startup, we tried to integrate it to help content creators make money, but it was just like too difficult to implement. So it just wasn't going to work out for us. And that was like, what a lot of people that were earnestly trying to build in this ecosystem, it just kind of became clear that like having your own branded token wasn't the thing that was going to transform your business. Like that's not the thing that's going to like help you, grow your company or outcompete other people in your space. Like that's not like the mission critical thing. And so things like Simple Token, just a bad investment. I mean, even though like it pumped, it sure as hell pumped. Like it went from like 6 cents to $1.40 in a couple weeks. And it stayed pretty high for a little bit. And, so like it was a good trade if you were, to buy in at the start and then have a good like 10x exit. Like that was a good trade. But as far as like a long-term investment, a lot of people got burnt on that. And so that I wouldn't, that's not like a scam, but it's just like another way people lose money. And it's kind of like in contrast with, there's like the money grab, like new token launch ones where like the team doesn't have any intention of doing anything beyond raise money. And then there's the ones that like, the people behind are really trying to build the thing that they said they're going to build, but it's just like, something that won't accrue value. And so those are kind of like two sides of the coin, and, they're hard to differentiate. But at least now, like a lot of these like new like ICO platforms or like new like ICOs, like they're launching in different ways. Like the whole concept of like raise a bunch of money up front and then build something. The market's just not very receptive of those anymore. The market used to be, but I think Hex kind of helped like kind of change the market's perspective on that, where like Hex was fully complete before any money changed hands. Like, Hex had like this, initial auction where like, coins come into existence and then the ETH goes to, the origin address, or the flush address in the Hex contract. And so, but that's happening after all of the work is done. And so it's just up to the market to like set the price that they're like willing to pay. Whereas like, years before, new tokens could launch where all they have is just like an ERC20 like cookie cutter token, and then like the real token is going to come out in a couple of years once we build it with the money that you just put in. And so the market's just kind of changed, so a lot of those types of things aren't quite there, but still, I mean, probably now like a bigger risk than the teams just kind of like stopping or just like it being just like a bad idea. Probably now, like in today's world, these kind of like money grab scams are they look like they look more like copycat clones of successful projects, where they try to sucker people in on FOMO from having missed, the last wave of bullishness in the market, where they pretty much like copycat existing things, and they try to get a lot of new people like sucked into it, and then they do what's called a rug pull. That's kind of like the new term. I think when we saw where was that Ruby chart, that was like a good example of one where
Ruby definitely got pulled.
Yeah, and so we're looking at Ruby because I'd seen someone live stream about it, and then the things that Ruby was putting in their like marketing material about it was like it had elements of like Hex. I shared the link. I was like, oh look, other coins are like trying to have the same talking points as Hex, and then like 2 days later, Ruby just got the rug pulled. Like this was like where pretty much what they do is that they sucker people in up to they push the price up from 20 cents up to $1.60, and then I think that Daniel, what was the lie that you fell for on that?
So the Telegram chat, they were like, big announcement coming, big announcement coming. And the thing is it's everybody in the Telegram chat, like they're all, everybody's like forwarding what one person says, and they're just like pirating it. But it was they had locked up half of the liquidity, but they just said it. Like they just said it. So yeah, I mean, and to be honest, like looking back on it, they were I think they were like a mobile wallet for sending between friends and family, like something weird like that. So if I would have actually dove into it, I probably could have sniffed it out. But at the same time, the whole process was a good learning lesson.
Yeah, literally, like that. That's
And I want to say Silent Dan. I also bought rubies too because I FOMO'd with Dan. I was like, yo, that sounds fun. However, Brian, I will say this.
Yeah, that's my fault. I was like, yo, I did it.
Yeah, I don't put my main money in this stuff. Okay, like that. I've learned my lesson from you. Like, there's, what did my dad call it? Mad money, right? Like, this is not the money that I didn't lose my yam farm on this.
Same deal. Right? Same deal. Like today I took back recycling and then I put it into crypto. Like it's like so now when I put that into like Ruby, for example, I don't feel it's whatever. I'm learning more than anybody who's just sitting there listening to videos or watching videos and not like getting into it. Like you don't have to have a gazillion dollars to start. Like start with recycling or start with your movie money that Brian always talks about, and then don't feel bad about getting wrecked. Like chalk it up to a learning lesson.
Yeah, that's exactly, because like, buying in on first date, like there's so much risk of going to zero, so like you have to factor that into how much you're willing to put in. Like you can put in like, throwaway money or just like high risk money, or mad money. I like that term. Like, for every, Ruby that goes to zero, every so often there's like a real hit, like, and, so, you just have to, it's all about just not losing all your money so that you can just have another at bat. Like you always want to just have another opportunity, because like, and even what we saw just, recently with, like Uni, it's like, there's always opportunities. Like new things come and go literally on a weekly basis. And it's just, you don't want to get wrecked by scams, so you don't have a chance to like make it all back, And so like, just like, being able to, and now that you've like, kind of seen that whole experience, it's hard to understand if you just like hear someone talk about it. But if like, you were in the Telegram chat, like, feeling that feeling of like, oh, wow, this is like going to be awesome. Like all these people are saying all this like crazy stuff, like this is going to go up. And then it all just, they say they're going to lock liquidity, and then they literally just pull the rug and dump it to zero and then run off with the money, take down the Telegram chat, take down the website, like, that like classic rug pull. Like, now you like know firsthand what that like feels like building up. And now you'll be able to sense that, like.
And I feel like they stole a really good name. I feel like that could have been an amazing coin. Like rubies? Are you kidding me? They ruined it.
Right? We should try to reclaim it. But yeah, like, and these have been, I think one of you had said it, that like you saw a chart that showed like 30 or 70, whatever it was, 30% of things on Uniswap got the rug pulled.
I think they were saying that like the chart was like 65% of what was shown like wasn't even like had gone, right? Was just rugged.
Yeah. And it's like, and that's because there were so many like, with, from, between all these like yield farming things that like some people made a lot of money on, to like just these crazy coins. Like there was just so much craziness. I think we were talking about it the other day, like, where I kind of like throttled back. I was like, all right, this is getting insane. Like what's going on here? And there's just so much craziness, and that's what the scammers prey on. Like they prey on people who are just like so blinded by like FOMO and greed, where like, they know that people just like won't put much effort into like figuring out if the stuff's legit or not. and it's like always like centered around like times when like other things are going up, because like if all of your other crypto investments are going up, you're going to feel like you have a lot of money, and so you might start taking like more and more risk, and then like that's what it's like the scammers, they come and go in these market cycles. Like as soon as the scammers come out, like that's usually like sometimes that's like a signal of the top, because if scammers, like if a lot of the money that's coming in to push up the prices of these things is now in the hands of scammers, the like as soon as the gig is up and that new money stops coming in and the scammers are starting to figure out how they can make their clean exit, that that can really change the momentum and direction of the market. And so like people getting kind of sucked into scams, like sometimes that's a good signal of like when the top of like a medium term market cycle is, because it usually like all the money that people are like putting in to these is now in the hands of scammers, and scammers are criminals. That means they have like short-term time horizons. Like they're not looking to like build like compounding wealth over a long term. Like they're trying to get rich quick. Like, so they have short-term time horizons. So they're active sellers, and like they're the ones pushing the price down because they're selling. That's kind of like that's one of the things that you could be looking out for to like start to reason about like when the top is in. And it's always tough because there can be multiple waves of scammers. But I think that that chart really points it out that there was so much hysteria around Uniswap because like it seemed like everything was going up. Flow was pumping. Ruby pumped and dumped. Things like Wi-Fi and SNX and land, like literally all these things, just pumping. And when people see things that pump that they weren't into, they're like, okay, I need to get in the next one. And then that's where the scammers go and collect from. So that I think that was like, that I think further like validated like kind of where we thought we were in the market cycle, was with the, just like all the scamminess that was going on, where it was, even if like people weren't really misled, like sometimes like people like there could be no lie told, but just like people just who create these things just pump the price and then figure out a way how to exit with more money they came in with, and it comes from the people that are chasing FOMO, and so and because like it's so hard to like, especially when you're like brand new coming in, like everything just looks insane. Like literally, like even yesterday, what we saw with like Uni, like people who own socks, which socks is like the coin that's backed by physical socks. The like people who, they get sucked into that, and like, you don't know what's like real. And then all like just by having socks, you get like this massive airdrop, like, not insignificant. It's like, shouldn't that be a scam? Shouldn't this coin that claims to be backed by socks, like, shouldn't that be a scam? Like, why is like,
and I saw socks were like, well, when I looked last night, they were like at 1,700 for a pair of socks.
Let's see what the price is now.
By the way, the Uni airdrop totally made up for the Ruby mistake. So thank you, Uni.
100%.
Let's see. Well, now so the Uni price is 336, so it's even going up even more. And then what we're gonna look at, socks. Like socks 3,400. Dear God.
Damn.
Oh wow! Wait, how much did you pay for your socks?
125.
Oh, that's amazing.
God, that's so fun. Literally, like this should be a scam, right? A coin called socks that claims literally like they claim that only 500 of these socks ever were made, and that when you redeem them, you can burn your coins and then get your socks. Like, that should totally be a scam, right? But it's not. And like, for one, the price has gone up let's see, 3,400 over 125, price up 27x. I didn't even get in at the bottom. There are people that have been holding socks way longer than me. Like, and this game, with the Uni airdrop, like you get a bonus for just having socks. Like when there's things like that go on, like totally legitimate things, like Uniswap, totally legit, socks, totally legit, but it all just sounds so crazy, and it's like real money. Like, in crypto, like you can't you typically, like when trying to avoid scams, like following the premise of if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That doesn't really apply in crypto, because sometimes things sound way too good to be true, but then it's exactly what happens. And so, like, that's always a hard one. Like, it's more about, like, you never know what supply and demand is going to be. Like, you never know, or you can generally know what supply is going to be. You never know what demand is going to be. And so, like, just basing it off of, like, if it's too good to be true or not, like, that doesn't really cut it, because, like, craziness just happens. Like, it's literally, like, this stuff's never happened before. Like, it's truly, like, in its own world. But, like, some things that just sound so crazy, like too wild to be true, like they're totally legit, but then things that sound like legitimate products are like total scams. Like, it's almost like so backwards, where like traditional, like, ways to think about these things, just like, it doesn't cut it. And like, so that's what makes it so challenging. And so really the thing to really be looking out for is like are people telling you like a coordinated lie about what's going on? And like, is there a way for you to like somehow like look into what the activity is that's like going to be producing the return on investment, and like see if that's like legit or not? It's like, that's like, rather than trying to like, like sort things by how crazy they sound, like in other types of environments, maybe that would work, but in this environment, it's really like, I think that like the thing to really look out for is if you're being like blatantly lied to. Like, those are the types of scams and like just things that you want to avoid. Like, if people have to lie about why this thing is going to be great, then it's probably not that good. But things that like happen with or without people, like if it doesn't rely on like a person to do some type of work, like build some like platform that's going to get like new, like Simple Token, like they needed to build a platform that was easy enough for developers to build tokens into their app. They need to build like a sales organization and business support to get companies to want to use Simple Token to build into their app. And like, and like people had to like, want to accumulate these tokens to use them in these like platforms that support it. Like, they weren't lying to you, like, but all these things like they're improbable had to happen in order for it to succeed. And so like those are things you just don't want to have. But like if you get the sense that people are like lying to you, then those are like really things to avoid. And so like, like with like the Ruby example, like, people were just telling you that the liquidity was burned. But that's probably like, there's no way for you to really know. Like and so like things like that probably could set, like if that's the thing that's going to make a coin pump, is if like the liquidity was like locked up, then like those just might be like, even though like, it's either a bad investment or someone's lying to you. Like the reason why things, like why you would want to buy things, that should last, like whether or not like anybody does anything. Like, if you're buying a coin because you think that like some other like thing is going to happen that's going to like make the coin valuable, like the odds of all the things lining up to happen perfectly is just really low. But like, but just like discounting things that are just like sound crazy, like that's not always so like the best strategy either. And so overall, like, if you feel like you're being lied to, like, stay away. If something sounds crazy, give it the time of day, because like, like Hex sounded crazy, socks crazy, like all these things that have like performed really well. Like, people, think that they're just like too good to be true or too crazy, but like they actually work. But then things that like, you know, like Ruby, they're trying to build like a platform for people to like send money to friends, like whatever they're saying they're doing. Like that's not like, it requires a lot of things to happen in its favor in order for that to work. But on top of that, like, they're lying to you about what's happening with liquidity, and then they just like pull the rug. And so like, you just have to be able to like sort through the noise, and like really understand like if like the context that you're hearing about these things in is like, if it's trying to convince you of something, then it like that's probably a red flag. Like things should just kind of exist. And like, yeah, maybe like the people who are like fanatics about it, like, they might be like, pushing their like marketing and like, doing their type of like outreach and shilling their coins, shilling their bags. But like, if it's something that like is a lie that like you can easily prove, like, if you're being misled, you don't ever want to buy something because you're being misled. Like you should only buy something if you think that like you can sell it for higher later. Like you don't want to buy something because of something that like somebody told you. And so like that's especially now is like, if like this bull market continues, there's going to be a whole new crop of scams. They're going to see what's been working, what's been bringing in money, and they're going to emulate it. And so, I'll always be on the lookout, and with like first day things, like, if it has a high risk of going to zero, like factor that into how much you're willing to buy. Like by all means, like if you feel like, if you feel that you need to buy something, like certainly buy it, because it could work out for you. But don't ever buy something because of like a lie that you heard in a Telegram chat. Like buy something because like you yourself believe that it's going to go up in price. Like don't get caught up in like hype and hysteria and like Telegram chatter, because like it's probably bullshit.
Yep, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, you felt it firsthand. I've looked like, let's see, I don't think I've never been like scam, like in that sense, like, because I mean I've always been pretty conservative with like where I like try stuff, like try putting money. Definitely with the DeFi stuff, I've like become a little bit more exotic in how I choose things, but probably Yam. But like Yam wasn't like a scam. It was just like, and I guess that's like a whole other category where like it's things that aren't scams, but you're going to lose all your money because the code sucks. Like the code breaks. And so like,
that is really interesting, Brian, sort of at this point in time, right? Like a scam, does this, right? What exactly does a scam encompass? And if the code was wrong, is that a scam, or is that just a true genuine mistake, or did it get rushed to market? Or yeah, it's interesting. It's really the beginning of everything.
Yeah, because like, like I never felt misled by what Yam was trying to do. Like, going into that, like our strategy was, a lot of hype and hysteria around this, like this whole concept of yield farming. People are really into it. And it also has this like rebase thing that people were also really into. So like, we weren't like bought into it on some premise of like, oh, this is going to change the world. Like we were interested in it because of just the momentum it had. Like purely people were into it. It had this, the rebase functionality, which like was kind of like the craze. Feels like months ago, but that was literally just weeks ago. And but then like they had a critical vulnerability that got exposed within the first day. And so like, it's not like the creators of it ran off with a bunch of money. It's just that they actually lost money. Like it was their money that got locked up. They had a bug that locked up a bunch of funds and prevented like the voting from happening or whatever crazy thing they were trying to do. And so like, that's not a scam, but people lost money in it like it was a scam, like, and because it doesn't really matter why you lose money. Like it doesn't matter why the demand goes down. Like it doesn't matter if it's a scam or if it's just like a bad project. Like those are just like two different reasons why the price can go down. And sometimes there are things that are just like overvalued that aren't scams at all. Like Bitcoin going to 20K, like that's not a scam. That's not a Ponzi. It's not it might be a bubble, but it's just like a time where the price, where people on one day were willing to pay a lot, but then on a later date were not willing to pay so much. That's not a scam, but like it's still a way to lose money. And like, that's really what you want to avoid, is you just want to avoid losing money. Like, especially measured in Bitcoin or ETH, because like, it's hard to claw back from like losing it all to like either a scam or a bad investment. And so just being able to like, just know that, like build your own strategy around things that like you like are, want to invest in, but like not like buying into hype, like not being the one that gets suckered into a scam, because like when you get suckered into a scam and like you buy the top of some like crazy thing and then gets the rug pulled, like your wealth and like your, economic energy is now in the hands of a scammer who's going to put like, they've already proven themselves to be, willing to like exert evil in the world, like by stealing from people, by lying to them and, pulling the rug on them. And so now you've just empowered somebody who's evil. Like you just empowered somebody who's, willing to harm others. And that's like the opposite one. Like you want to take the money from them. Like you want to take the money from the scammer because you want them to have less impact. And that's even like, like another way you can view it is, because what these scammers try to do is that, they create a coin that they have most of it, and they need to figure out a way to have other people push the price up. So part of that is like they themselves are pushing the price up. And so if scammers are like subsidizing the price, like scammers are pushing the price up, like why not profit from that? Like if you can buy, like, I don't recommend like trying, like, unless like, you're really experienced in like like how to like execute on these things. Like one way to combat scams is just to out trade them. If like you can get in on something that like if you sense it's a scam, but like you feel like you're early in on it, like if you feel like you're not like the last person in, why not buy it? Because you might, the scammer might be trying to push the price up. Like the scammer might be subsidizing a pump. And if, you can buy in kind of like at the, like right when a scammer or like some type of scammy thing starts going, and then a couple of days later, when like the scammers like push the price up enough, now you're selling and you're taking profit and like you're taking that money. You as like the not scammer, like, it's better for you to have that money than somebody who is like willing to orchestrate these things. And so, maybe that's a way to combat scams, is just to out trade them. If they're going to be the ones pushing helping push the price up and like subsidizing a pump, then, if you find yourself an opportunity to do that, maybe that's one way to fight a scam. But there's risk involved, because like, you could end up being the one behind the top. That's really probably the worst thing about scams, is just that it like moves money from like honest people into dishonest people's hands. And dishonest, like evil people with money can cause a lot of harm. And so like, you don't want them to have the money. Like you as a good person, you want the money, because like it's your will that should be asserted on the world around you. Like you don't want someone who's willing to harm others. Like you don't want them to have the resources to assert their will. And so like either just like avoiding scams entirely or taking profit from scams, if you're a little bit more risky and a little bit more savvy, those are probably like, the two things. You never want to be the one like suckered into a scam, because like that's just not good for anybody. Do you know any? I remember somebody in the Dipcatcher chat had asked about one. I forgot what it was. They'd asked about like some type of like something. They asked me what my thoughts were on some coin. I like looked it up, and like first thing, like even just Googling it. Usually, if you can Google it, like sometimes you can find like the things are like obviously scams.
Yeah, and I feel like, gosh, you've given us such a great foundation. I mean, I'm hesitant to go anything beyond like Hex, ETH, and Bitcoin anyway. So it just, I put very like few dollars towards all of that. And so I feel like if you ride there, you can sniff things out a little bit more. Like even the name of that sort of sounded an alarm for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. If you err on the side of hodler, it helps your radar, I think.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, most people, like, the best, like, unless you're like really in tune and like have a lot of time to like really like research some of this stuff, like, doing like a strategy like that, like Bitcoin, ETH, Hex, like it's such like a good diverse, portfolio that can like still capture like some of the residual value that gets created from some of this other stuff. Like, when all the craziness is going on with like all these projects launching on ETH, like, yeah, some of these things that launch like go like 100x, 1000x, like whatever. But the act of them doing that also pushes the price of ETH up. So ETH is kind of like almost like an index fund for like a lot of these like kind of more exotic financial instruments that get launched on it. Some which are scams, some which are totally legit. And like if you don't have like the capacity or the time to like really like kind of wade through that, like just buying and holding ETH is like totally a good way to like get exposure to that. Because like if like a scam is trying to collect a lot of ETH, they're going to be paying money to, try to get a lot of people to buy ETH and then put it into their scam or whatever. And like you can benefit from, just the buy pressure on ETH. Like if if you're just like consistently buying up ETH, then whenever there's scams that are like pushing the price of ETH up, then like you benefit from that. And that was kind of the same with Bitcoin too. Like the scams like BitConnect and then like Plus Token, where they were collecting a lot of Bitcoin. Like you don't need to be looking for things that are gonna like promise you out crazy returns. Like if that stuff happens, because like you can't stop it, because like why would even like telling people about like even telling people to avoid scams can kind of like be a double-edged sword. Like some people might be introduced to scams by being told to avoid it. And so like, just like, unless you're like willing to like put the time in to like really try to like unpack a lot of the stuff, like, just being, in things like that, like you'll probably way outperform the average. Like most people lose money because they're like chasing after all these things. The more you chase after stuff, the more likely you are to end up in some type of like scam situation. And, so like, you don't, I think that it's like overall, like kind of like only owning one coin, like that's not so much a good strategy either, because like you miss out on other opportunities. But holding coins that kind of like touch different areas of this like financial revolution that's going on, that's but like not really like yeah, it's fun to like find that first day coin that goes 10x, like flow, like that was fun, but like part of that's luck. Like very well could have just read a different tweet while in that moment while I'm just like receptive of new things. Could have just read a different tweet of like some other thing that didn't go 10x, that went negative 10x. Like it's very high risk trying to like identify things like that. And so unless you're like prepared for that, like usually a good strategy is to just like accumulate things that like are good in any market condition, like things that you just want in general. Like Bitcoin and ETH are good collateral, because Bitcoin you can get like Bitcoin backed loans, ETH you can get Ethereum backed loans, and like with ETH, like that's like the gateway into investing in other things. So it's like you have something that like you can invest in other things with. And then with like Hex, it's like a really strong yield producing asset. So that kind of covers all the bases. Like you kind of want those things in all conditions. And like so that's like a good foundation to have. And then like as you build up like your just like building up on these things. They're like strong things to just have in general. That's how you can like allow yourself to like take more risk. Where you can invest in kind of like wackier things that might be scams, might not be. It's too early to tell, or there's no way for you to tell, but could pump in price. Like you want to build up your like base of things that are strongholds, so that you can take more risk in things that are, to see those like, crazy fast, crazy large returns. You need to take more risk, but like with that risk, your risk, like, the risk is there that it could go to zero, and some of these things do. And so just like not going all in on like some random thing that you saw online, like that's like the quickest way to just be done in crypto. Like how bad would that suck if like you're already like bought into like the ethos and like the narratives surrounding crypto, but then you lose it all because you thought that buying fucking sushi was a good idea. Like,
Well, and
Yeah.
and when you're flying around like FOMOing out, you're not paying attention. And excuse me, one thing that I think people should be conscious of are the domains. So being sure that you're at like uniswap.org and not uniswap. Whatever else that somebody created to capture your information. So like when you're FOMOing and you're rushing to buy in on these things, you're just sort of clicking around. I mean, that's one of the things that I think with crypto, like you have to take ownership over so much of your security and just the nuances of like that's the small stuff. But it really does matter if you want to hold your bag, like long run.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like, like you don't want to lose it. Like that's the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you do is just like not have more at bats.
Uh, it, it's funny. So I signed I helped my cousin sign up for a wallet the other day, and I think it was like 22 words for their private key, and this was like their first time really diving into crypto, so it was like a little overwhelming, I think. Like you don't lose these keys because this is like your wealth like in this.
Yeah, and that's like a whole other area. Like like if you lose your private keys, like that's not a scam, but you still lost it. Like it doesn't matter why you lose it. Like either way you lost it, and there's no getting it back. And so like and that's the other thing. Like I mean I don't know. Like scams have been pretty prevalent lately, and like it usually preys on like beginners who are also like equally likely to like just lose their keys themselves. But there's other ways to lose money that isn't even like you might even be more likely to lose money on your own accord than from some scammer like ripping you off. Like it's like you might lose your funds, and that's like no one's fault but your own. And like you weren't scammed, like you just didn't like you didn't rise up to the responsibility required to participate in these types of things. And that's not a scam. And it kind of to touch on what you just said about like, making sure you go to the right domain. Like, that's like a whole other like, I guess we didn't even talk about that yet. Like that's a whole other class of scams, kind of like the Twitter thing we saw where,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
say, oh, send crypto to this address and I'll send you back twice what you sent me. And then people just send a bunch of money. Like, what? Like, why would you do that? But some people just fall for it. And, like that's not like, I guess, they're lying to you in the sense that like they're not sending you back twice what you sent them, but it's not like they're like, raising money on some like crazy premise. It's literally like, oh, send me 2 ETH and I'll send you 4. And then people just like, okay. And they send 2 ETH and they're like, where's my 4 ETH? Like, that like for the, I don't know. I mean, for people that fall for those types of things, like honestly, and that's also the thing is that like, I believe that like if like a scammer like tricks you into sending them your money, then they deserve it. Like you gave it to them, like under no coercion. Like if somebody came to your house and like, you know, like extorted you and like, you know, beat you to shit to get you to like, you know, give up like the location of your like private key backup or whatever they did. Like that's like, I don't think they deserve it. Like by no means. Like they like, you know, they physically extorted you. You know, they coerced you into giving the money. Like that's theft. Like that's wrong. But I mean, even though lying is wrong, but like, you know, they did not coerce you into giving them the funds. Like you voluntarily gave them the funds because you thought that you would see a return on your investment. And so like even with like last like with that sushi swap thing where it wasn't even a scam, just like the creator of it just like had a bunch of the coins and a bunch of the ETH, and he just like ran off with it, but then ended up giving the money back because like people were like threatening to kill him. Um, like like he deserved it. Like, you know, people gave him that money like under no duress. And you know, so like I do think that like if these cryptocurrencies are going to be bearer assets where there's no chargebacks and all the responsibility to like, you know, of like where the money goes is in the hands of the holders of the coins, then like if you give up your money to a scammer, whether that's from the scammer lying to you about some like trading activity that you think that you're going to get an ROI on, or they launch an ICO that they say they're going to build all these fantastical things and you buy into the hype, you know, like you sent them the money. Like you should have factored in that risk of like them running off with it into how much you were willing to put into it. Like, you know, because if you put all your money into something that the creators run off with, then what that means is that you did not accurately measure the risk that you know, the money that you're putting into this thing would not pay off. Like, you know, you misassessed like how likely the people who were behind this to like execute on what they said they were going to do. And like that's your loss to bear. Like, you know, you made that decision. So I think that like people like that, like this kind of like bailout mentality of like, you know, oh, like people have even at like there's some scam like happened at some time, and people were trying to get the miners to like roll back the chain, or like trying to like that's not how this works. Like we either have bare assets or we don't. Like you either control your own private keys or you don't. You know, you either have chargebacks or you don't. Like, and you know, so I think that like, you know, it's not like rather than like expecting someone to bail you out of like a bad situation that you got yourself into because someone persuaded you to like send your money into their scheme. Like rather than like, you know, doing that, you should, you know, if you're going to get, you know, like if you're going to get into these types of things, like literally, sure. Like if you feel compelled by the message, like if you see somebody building a product like in the crypto space that like, you know, you're just attracted to, like maybe it is because of lies they're telling you, or maybe it is because of, you know, it sounds too good to be true, but like you're just like, oh wow, this is gonna be huge. Like by all means, like if you feel like in your heart, you know, like you know that's gonna work out for you, because sometimes it does. Like sometimes crazy things just work. Like Hex, that was crazy. It just worked. Like a lot of risk. Everyone thought Hex was a scam, but it's like, but it's so clearly not. Like it's become like, you know, but like it sounds so crazy, you know, but it worked. You know, socks, like what? But it's just like it's totally legit. Like it's like, you know, you got to go with your gut, like because no one's going to be able to like make these decisions for you, you know, because like you like even like sometimes like I have a hard time when people ask me like, oh, like there's this thing like should I invest? It's like it's such a hard thing to do, like to like guide someone on, because anything can happen. Like I can't predict demand. Like I like to focus a lot on supply. Like something that we always talk about is like, what are the supply dynamics? Because that's like half the equation. The other half is the demand, which you don't know what that's going to be. So it's always so hard to like do, you know, like be able to tell someone what to do. And so like, you can't rely on other people to like tell you what you're going to do. Like, so, but if you feel like in your heart that like something is a good, like, you want to invest in this, like you have a good feeling about it. Like, even if you're being misled, like, you truly need to factor in like, the risk of going to zero, and like factor that into how much you're willing to put in, because like by all means, like invest in things that are questionable, like invest in things that are like so crazy that they can't be true, because sometimes they work out, or even if they don't work out, like there's enough people after you that like also think that it could be true, where you could have a good exit. But like,
I think like Dan's point too, like I think slowing down as you're making these decisions, like not having to freak the hell out, not FOMOing super hard, because you're right, because then you can tap into that intuition and really like, instead of clicking around, just slowing down 1 second.
Yeah, like, slowing down and, thinking about it from a lot, like, thinking about it, like, because this is like this isn't like a get rich quick, this isn't like a thing that we're going to be doing for a little bit and then like be done with. Like, this really is a lifestyle, like, accumulating financial assets. Like, that's something that we're going to be doing our whole lives. And so like, just like not getting ahead of yourself, like thinking that you have to become rich this moment. Like, that's when people really lose. It's like, people like say they have $10,000 to invest. They're like, all right, I need something that's go 100x so I can be a millionaire. And so they put their like, that's like in their head what they're going for. And so they put it into things that are like super high risk, because like the only things that can go 100x are things that are really high risk. But, for every one that goes 100x, there's 99 that go 0x, negative 100x. And so like, that's where people really get wrecked. And like, there's a Telegram chat, like I think everyone should follow. It's called Wrecked Plebes. This really keeps me humble.
Wrecked Plebes, like REK, like what, like REKK?
REKP, plebes, whatever. And I just like reading through this, because what it like compiles all these different like, coins, and people like in these chat groups are like, oh my God, I lost all my money on this. Like, this person, I lost 4,000 today. Oh my God, this person, is Flow dropping like a sack, or is it just me? What is it? What else? Did I just buy a bunch of tears? Lost 6,000.
Oh my God! Wait, I need that chat. Will you put it in the Can you drop the link for that chat?
Yeah, let me share this with our community. Learn from their losses. Don't get wrecked. Yeah, like, you see all the like, and that's what happens. Like, people that have, if you have like $6,000 that like is going to really negatively impact you if you lose, like, do not put that all into one thing that could go to zero. Like this all requires a lot of like self-awareness, and like just like awareness of just like reality. Like, by all means, invest in things that could go to zero. Like, that's where the highest ROI comes from, is things that have a chance of going to zero. But like, the ROI that those can produce for you is usually like great enough. And these things like there's always new opportunities, where like there's not just like one chance to do it. Like, some might be better than others, and like it may take some time for like the next opportunity to come up for you. But like, if you try to just like knock it out of the park on your first investment, like, you're probably going to lose. Yeah, maybe you might get lucky and might work out, but like, just reading like what these people, this person lost 15K from like, what are they fucking talking about? Lost 6,000 in like, what the fuck is Thai? Is this admin or scam? I've lost almost everything to scammers. Oh my gosh, should have watched my stream. Have I just been screwed on and lost my inheritance?
What? Oh my God, this is amazing.
Oh my gosh. Well, I turned 25K into $250. Now I bought.
No. Well, these
like,
are
come
takeout is right. Takeout back and rape in ours. What?
I'm losing money every day with Tezos. Had 40K saved for a car. Was gambling it on crack and here and there, pulling 5% off, easy plays. Bought a lot of stuff around the house. Then I'm like, let's try Uniswap. Oh my gosh. Wrecked. You know, like, and that's just not what you, like, you know, that's like half the game. Half the game is just not losing money. Like, this is high risk stuff. So that means like there's a chance of it going down. Like, you know, people want stability, but like when you ask for stability, what you miss out on is opportunity. And like that high gain opportunity only comes from like there being an equal chance of it going down. So like, you know, risk is good. Like things that like are questionable, like that's good. Like, you know, because if like people are never presented with like things that like will go to zero, like, you know, if the only things that ever come out are going to be things that go up, like nothing will go up because like, you know, the price is a measurement of risk, and like it requires risk for there to be a reward. And so like, you know, you can't be afraid. Like that's like, you know, where people like, yeah, I guess you're not going to be like losing all your money, but like where people like miss out on opportunities that they could have had, they're like too afraid to like get in on this. But it's really just like a matter of like understanding like the scope and scale of these things, and making sure that like, you know, if you're gonna like, you know, like, you know, say you have $10,000, like you should probably just split that up between Bitcoin, Hex, and ETH. You know, for the Hex, enter in some stakes, like, you know, earn some ROI on that. You know, with ETH, like you can use the ETH to like invest in other things. Like ETH is like the gateway to other investments. And then Bitcoin, that's like your last resort. Like, you know, you hold your Bitcoin, you know, if everything else goes to zero and you need like new money to claw out of your hole, then borrow against your Bitcoin and then like try to make it back. You know, like Bitcoin's like the last thing you want to lose because that's the thing that has the smallest chance of going to zero. And so like that's like your reserve money. Like, you know, the like massive like overnight like 100x upside, like that's not going to happen in Bitcoin. You know, like we may see like 50% or 20% gains overnight in Bitcoin, but like the crazy pumps you see in brand new DeFi coins, that cannot happen with Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is not risky enough for that type of movement in price. You know, so like, you know, allocating, you know, part of your portfolio for investing in things like that's a good thing. Like that's how you can, you know, like, you know, say you have $10,000 of, you know, crypto and you have, you know, 3.3K in Bitcoin, 3.3K in ETH, 3.3K in Hex. You know, put that 3.3K of Hex into a 60-day stake, and then every 60 days, you now have about $200 that you can place on like a high risk thing. You know, that was like free money you got from the yield on your Hex. Like, why not, you know, buy into some like wacky shitcoin that you see that like could go 100x, could go to zero, probably will go to zero. Like, you know, like that's a good use of that. Or like, you know, if you have like 3,000 of ETH, you know, you don't want to risk more than like say 5% of like your, you know, you don't ever like really want to risk more than like 5% of your total assets. So if you have $10,000 of, you know, crypto, like per like new investment, like if that's like your baseline, like per new investment, you know, $500 or even less, like $250, like per like investment that you carve out, like that's totally adequate. Because like, you know, if you're going to risk that, you know, that into like, you know, high risk things where like it either goes down 50% or it goes up 3x, like if that's like your like risk reward like profile you're targeting, like, you know, you don't even have to be right more than half the time. Because, you know, if you're only taking small risk, then when you're wrong, you know, it limits how much you could lose. But when you're right, like, you know, turning $200 of ETH into $1,000 of ETH, like that's a big win. Now you can take more risk on all your next trades, and it can make up for any bad trades you've made in the past. So, like, you know, that's what I really see when I look at these, like people that either get sucked into scams, so putting all their money into scams, or just people that like, you know, just bought at the top. Like some of these like that you seen here, like they're not like they didn't get scammed. They just bought the top of a bubble. And so like, you know, just like that's the big like resounding thing that I see in here is just like, okay, like if you have 40K of like, why are you putting all 40K into like, you know, like random things? Like put 400 into something high risk, and then put another 400 in something, you know, maybe, you know, a little less risky, and then maybe like, you know, put 1,000 into something that's like not really that risky, like maybe something more established, like, you know, maybe you can't go 100x, but like, you know, always having more at bats is really like all you need, because like there's always opportunity. Like you don't want to like miss out on future opportunities because you got greedy on the first opportunity that came your way. Like that's what I see whenever I read these. I'm like, wow, like now, like, you know, this person, they lost all their money, but then like the next day there was something that like maybe they could have bought, but then now they can't because they ran out of money, because they risked too much at one time. And so just like managing your risk and like being able to like assess the risk of these things and factor that into how much you're willing to put in, that's just like a critical skill that, you know, like, yeah, like me talking about it can like maybe help you like, you know, just kind of like not, you know, not like go all in on stuff, but you know, sometimes like, you know, it might take you to go all in, you know, and that's part of, you know, like when, like I had like me back in my experience with Simple Token, like it wasn't so much that I went all in. I was like already all in on my startup. Like I didn't have shit. Like I didn't have any money then. Like I was broke. I was way broke. So like, you know, it wasn't like, I mean, it's more money that I had to lose, but like I was already just, I didn't have any money anyway. So like whatever. But like just how much money I left on the table from that. Where I was thinking like, I was getting greedy. I was like, oh no, this is going to like $10 a coin. Like we're gonna be millionaires off Simple Token. Like just like being too greedy, like that limited the number of like at bats that I had. You know, like I could have been like more, you know, I could have, you know, taken profit earlier instead of like hoping something would keep pumping another 10x. But, you know, like it took that real life experience for me to like really understand like the magnitude of like how quickly price can go down in certain things that are new. And so, you know, part of it's just like being aware, but then part, you know, if you do end up putting too much money in something and you lose it all, like that shouldn't be your end point. Like if you lost all your money, then just go make more money. Like make money like you're gonna make more money outside of crypto, and then like being able to like amplify.
Oh my God, I love that, Brian. Then just go make more money. It's so real. I love that.
Yeah, I mean that's really like your only choice, right? And like you know, there's so like cryptos I view really for like amplifying money. It's like very like, I mean, even though like, you know, there's been some like really great success with some of the things that we've picked out on, but like, you know, you're gonna make more money by doing work outside of crypto, like in the real world, you know, selling products, building products, like managing people. Like you're gonna make more money doing that than you are on trading. But trading is what can like take the money that you make in the real world and like double it, triple it. Like it's more for like amplifying. And so like, you know, you should already be like, you know, not like, and that's where I think a lot of these people go wrong. A lot of these people like they're trying to make a living trading. They're trying to make a living investing, where like their profits they make are what pays for their cost of living. That's what forces people into making like larger bets than what they can afford to lose, is because like if you need to make you know, $3,000 a month and you only have $5,000 to invest in, like you need to be making 60% return per month, you know, which is tough. Like you're not going to like, that's you're not going to do that like consistently. And so that's what forces people into making these like too big of risk trades, is that they like need to like finance their lifestyle. And so like treating crypto is more like a one-way in, where like you accumulate your wealth and like you earn your income outside of crypto. And then bring it into crypto and then grow it. In a pretty conservative, but like still leaving, like you still want, like there's so many good opportunities that you want to be able to take risk, but like you never want to risk it all at once. And you don't want your livelihood to like be based on the performance of your crypto assets. Like, your standard of living should be based on like how productive you are, like in the real world. And then like this is really just for like growing wealth and like growing your like dynasty, like, trying to like earn a lot of money in crypto so you can spend it on rent or spend it on food. Like, you're probably going to lose more than you make. God, these are so funny to read.
Can we transition at this point into uni? Because I'm super curious, like how, like uni, like, well, I guess you can backtrack and say what's happening, but I mean, really, I know about it because of you like 24 hours ago. So I'm just going to go ahead and freely admit that.
Yeah, let's talk about uni. Last night, like out of nowhere, Uniswap, which is the exchange that we use for all the DeFi coins, like that's where we, buy Hex, buy all these other things. They launched their own token called UNI, and they had a pretty unique way to roll out the coin. Like typically when coins launch, it like goes to like insiders first, and then like they usually have like token sales, and then maybe they have airdrops where you like maybe get like $10 worth of the coin. But yesterday, Uniswap airdropped 400 UNI to every person that has ever made a transaction on Uniswap. So any person that has ever traded on Uniswap got 400 UNI, and the price of UNI, let's see where the price is right now. Let's zoom in on the hourly chart so we can see. Oh wow, this is a bull
Uni, Brian?
What'd you say?
How old is Uni?
Launched yesterday, about 24 hours old.
Okay.
And so everybody got 400 UNI, which right now 400 times 3.62. Wait, 400 times 3.62. Right now that's $1,400, $1,448. So like everybody who's ever made a single trade just got $1,400 that they can sell right now. Like no strings attached. Like it was just this airdrop. And it was just so crazy that just all of a sudden, because like people like something we talked about a couple of weeks ago, we're like, and I think we talked about a little bit in our chat, like that, especially with like all the scams that we saw and just like all the craziness, like it seemed like it was kind of coming to an end. And like a lot of people, like a lot of these DeFi coins have just been selling off over the last week. Big drawdowns in coins that like people were like all in on. And so many people lost all this money. And then all of a sudden, like Uniswap just like out of nowhere just airdrops this coin. And for like the market is pricing it at like 3. So it's like a significant amount of money. Like for everybody, like no matter how much you've ever traded with, you got 400 UNI. And what UNI is, it's called a governance coin. It's like a coin that's used to vote on like things in the Uniswap. Here's what it says. UNI tokens represent voting shares in Uniswap governments. You can vote on each proposal yourself or delegate your votes to a third party. So let's see what this is all about. Here, I'll share this link. Y'all can read this for yourself, but like
you have to claim it by tomorrow. Would you get? You get 48 hours or something to claim it?
Let's see. Actually, I don't think that there's a deadline. Yeah, it doesn't like.
Oh, really? Okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah, I think that let's see. Let's look at the contract, I guess.
I think you just
I
I think you just had to like use it before September 1st to
Mhm.
qualify.
Yeah. The snapshot was September 1st, and it wasn't announced beforehand. And so Unis like what I really like about this is that they like sometimes they're like airdrops that will say that like everybody that has a coin on this date in the future is going to get it. And usually people that like run those airdrops, they like load up their bags of like whatever coin, and they're like, okay, everyone who buys this is going to get this airdrop. And when everyone rushes in to buy the other coins, they're eligible for the airdrop. The creators of it are just selling into those people. Um, and so like what I like about this is that it's like a retroactive airdrop where like there was no like literally no, I mean maybe some people knew about it. Um, but like it's not like you're buying a coin. It's like you just have to make a trade like on Uniswap to get it. Maybe socks, but socks wasn't even socks like because when the claiming for Uni token started, let's see where I can find that. The claim was everyone who bought some or everyone who had ever traded on Uniswap got some. Everybody who has ever provided liquidity. So remember we talked about providing liquidity for Ample. Um, I got like 16 Uni for I provided liquidity for a little bit and I got like 16 Uni.
I
So some
didn't.
people
I thought I had done that too because I also had ample. I was maybe I don't know.
did,
I didn't, but I didn't
did
get it.
you put it in the Ample geyser.
Uh huh.
Then
Hmm.
I don't know, man. You should have because that was how I got mine just by having provided liquidity for some period of
Yeah.
time. But like so like those people and people that hold socks because they created like stocks was created as like an early like example of how to use Uniswap, and so it's like kind of like their like pet project. So people that had socks were like in on that airdrop, but it was all like like only like they took the airdrop or the snapshot at September 1st, and then they announced it last night. So like let's see if we can actually see if there might have been insiders on the socks. So the airdrop or the deadline was on the 1st of September. So maybe like but you never know because like maybe the insiders in I mean, but the people that launched this already probably had a ton of socks because like Uniswap created socks. It's like maybe they already had some, but like I guess leading up to I mean, price of socks has just been going up. Like I don't know if that had anything to do with like the upcoming snapshot, but like maybe people kind of got wind and like this move up that like 70% move maybe that had something to do with it up until September 1st. I don't know because it looked like it dumped after that. So maybe some people got wind of it. We could do some blockchain forensics maybe another time to like see if like we think that people were buying into stocks in preparation for it.
Can
But
can we take a moment to appreciate the guy who I think it was $25,000 worth he like staked in Hex. Was it 25K? Like either
oh
way,
yeah,
like and then he did a max link stake. Like that guy. That
that
guy.
was
I'm gonna
yeah
applaud you, my friend.
yeah I think his name was so he's built some of the like the Hex sites. I don't know if he's part of Hex.live. He might be. I'd have to look, but yeah, he's like a someone who's pretty active in the Hex space, like building products. Damn, Hex, there we go. I haven't even seen this today. There we go. Um, but yeah, he was a big liquidity provider for Hex. So he was entered in the liquidity pool for Hex, and so he earned I think it was something like 8,000 Uni, and he sold like in like the $2.50 range. He could have held on to it longer, but he took all of his free Uni he got, sold it for ETH. He got like 75 ETH, then bought some like 10 million Hex, and then staked it for max length stake, like true oligarch moves. and like, that could be like, especially now that we're getting close to big payday, and like the, like, stakes ending in 15 years, like that last like year of that stake, it's going to be earning absurd interest. Like every day that goes on, the interest increases, and every day that goes on in Hex where your stake is like of the longest stakes of that time, like you're just earning more and more interest. So like, that'll be the big question. Like, of his, 10 million Hex he got for free, how much Hex is he going to earn on interest for that stake? And how much is the Hex going to be worth at that time? Like, that's going to be the big, big question. Like, what if he becomes one of the wealthiest people out there? Like, very well could be. So that is pretty, that's pretty amazing about like this whole like airdrop, is it like, because it was so liquid. Like when we look at the, oh my God, it's still going up 4K on these socks. I'm about to take delivery on these socks. Just the.
Yeah, that's legit.
I know. As if they would care. Literally, like all the people I know, they're like, people already don't even know what the fuck I'm like on with this stuff. If I just bought took delivery of a $4,000 pair of socks, that'd be too much. But yeah, I mean, like, I think he sold somewhere that he could have had more, but you never know. And that I really don't know what to, like. I'm still trying to unpack like what I think is going to happen with Uni. The things I think it kind of is similar to, or people might establish the same mental models around, are BNB. So Binance, they had their own coin, BNB, and by holding BNB, so I think, and like if we look at the BNB chart, let's look at BNB BTC. See if we can find a chart. So like, BNB spent a lot of time kind of in this range, going sideways, and it's like, say from let's say the average of like all this time is somewhere around here, and over time, like, Binance is up, I guess really not that much. It's really just kind of maintained parity with, oh wait, I wasn't zoomed out enough. Oh wow, I was way not. Let me zoom out more so we get a good measurement here. So like, BNB since its launch has like way outperformed Bitcoin. Like this is Binance measured in Bitcoin. So like Binance up till now has, like since its launch, up like 1,000% against Bitcoin. And since Binance, like with BNB coin, it's an exchange token. You can earn trading fees by holding it. People, like, it's not how it is now. Like Uniswap, Uni holders don't earn Uniswap trading fees, but they could. So people may be hoping to hold on to it to earn trading fees and use Uni as like a yield producing crypto. So that's one potential outcome, and that's one like mental model that I think people could assign to it that could be bullish for the price. And then the other thing that I think it could be kind of similar to is this one called Wi-Fi, which I think we talked about a little bit last time. I've been looking for an entry. I haven't pulled the trigger on this one yet. I missed a big move. Like literally, I was sitting there deciding if I wanted to buy Wi-Fi down here at like $4,000, and I was waiting for a retrace. Never happened. And this launched in kind of a similar fashion, where there wasn't like a group of people that had all the supply. It was like like Wi-Fi coin. It's a governance token, so much like the Uniswap token. It's like for voting in there. Like you can vote on changes to the protocol. That's what Wi-Fi is too. So these governance tokens, where like in the past, I think on the show even before, we talked about like how governance can kind of be a major form of overhead. where like governance isn't like the thing that makes the price go up. Like price goes up when people buy with no intention of selling. Like buying so you can vote doesn't necessarily move price up sustainably. But what we've seen play out is these governance coins have gone up a lot. One, just because it's kind of like if it's a reliable project, because there have been so many scams, people are just looking for something reliable where they don't think it's a scam. And like things that have kind of proven themselves, like people are more willing to put money in. So like that's part of what's pushing the price up. But also people that have a lot of money at stake, or potentially even like other protocols that might interact with these like smart contracts, they may have some business interest in trying to accumulate a lot of the voting power. And so like that might be happening with Wi-Fi where there are people that have a lot of money at stake that want to like at least be able to influence or like be a part of the decisions behind like, you know, how these like Wi-Fi products work. Like, you know, we'll have to go into Wi-Fi in a different time, but like, you know, and like since Uniswap is an exchange, all the centralized exchanges may view Uni token as a way to like capitalize on the decentralized exchange, which is taking their business. But maybe by being a majority holder in like the Uniswap token, maybe they can like assert some type of influence and protect their investments. So like, you know, maybe the major exchanges are going to try to accumulate a lot of Uniswap token, and that might push the price up. So between just being like an exchange token that could potentially produce yield from trading fees, combined with like the governance, where we've seen like governance coins like Wi-Fi really take off because like people like want that real estate, like they want that voting power. I actually think, you know, Uni may have something there. So like, you know, I'm definitely, you know, I think Uni may have just like inserted itself as like, you know, a major thing that we look at because one, like, I mean, just because like we're gifted, you know, from, you know, the heavens, you know, the sweet manna, and now it's in the form of Uni, just for free, just for having been in the right place at the right time. Like, you know, by being interested in this stuff, we got like this free gift.
You know, it really extraordinary. I was trying to explain it to my sister. She's like, I really don't get it. The funny thing, last night you were saying for Jacqueline to check too, Jackie, my daughter. But you know what? We bought her hex on the adoption amplifier. We didn't see it. So anyway.
I did the same thing. But you know what? I still got my drop. So I still got one. I just didn't get multiple.
You can't rewind time. You know? And yeah, like I typically buy on Uniswap, and I haven't bought on the AA pretty much since I started using Uniswap pretty much. Just because like you can usually get a better price. Like if you buy a dip on Uniswap, you're gonna get a better price than you will on the AA. So like AA I think is better for like bigger pools of funds. But I think like, you know, I think I typically just buy on Uniswap because it's a little bit easier. You don't have to wait a whole day.
You know, at least she holds hex. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like just by being in the game, like you don't need to perform well. Like you don't need to make the right trade. Just making any trade made you eligible for that airdrop. And I think this might have been like the biggest airdrop ever.
Yeah, I don't think I may have made 2 trades on Uniswap because I just go to the adoption amplifier as well. Like I usually just go to the AA. So
but you bought Ruby, right? So maybe your Ruby trade.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it actually worked out for me. So Ruby was actually a bit of a Ruby.
There you go. You're and
oh my God, that's so right. That's what got us that, isn't it? That's amazing. I mean, yeah. Oh my God, if it wasn't for the Ruby failure, we wouldn't have it. So, thank you, Rubies.
Right.
That's so funny. But yeah, I mean, you know, so I'm pretty, you know, and I think it kind of brought like a new wave of excitement, and probably people are just gonna be buying coins because like now that Uniswap kind of demonstrated success with this type of launch, where they take they secretly snapshot a date where if you held a coin, you get this airdrop, and if you ever use this protocol, you get it. So now people maybe just be like buying up a bunch of stuff, like in the chance that by having, the coin, like Socks was the example there with Uni, it could be something else. Like maybe there are other airdrops that are going to come down the line. People that saw all the success, all the hype, and they're going to, maybe we'll get lucky with something else. And it's not like we predicted that, and like, is that luck or is that preparation? Like, I don't think it was luck, like it felt lucky, but like, we put in the time to learn this stuff. Like literally I have countless people throughout all this time that like I have personally talked to, like, personal friends that I, talk them through, they see that, they see, the things that I'm, doing here, and they just don't take that first step. And like, if they would have just taken that first step, they would have gotten this, and like, that's the, that really, I think this really highlights, and I think this really can activate a lot of people that have been sitting on the sidelines, just like watching it, not knowing where to start. And
interesting, Brian, that
now
this will make it like headlines to sort of get people maybe to step in.
Yeah, because you got to get in the arena. Like you're not going to see gains from any of this unless you're in the arena. Like, yeah, there are risks, but like you need to channel those risks like through your being into the reward. Like you like unpack that for yourself.
And think about the risks that you're taking holding cash, simply operating on like cash flow, and like not you're burning your dot. Like you're just I think it's actually worse. So
yeah, it definitely is for sure. Like
the scam of the US dollar. We haven't talked about that today.
You feel like you're not losing anything because like your Wells Fargo account says $1,000, but like on one hand there's like just like prices of things going up around you, while where like inflation is being paid to everybody but you. So like there's that whole side of it, but then there's also just opportunity cost. So like like you may feel like you're not losing, like when you have your money in your bank account, you may not feel like you're losing, but you really are, because you're missing out on other opportunities. Like you're electing to hold your money in that cash account, and you're not holding something that could go up in value. And so like, some people may not feel like they're having losses, but if you're like up in dollars or equal in dollars, but you're down in how much Bitcoin you could have or down in how much ETH you can have, like you had losses. And that like your loss is being paid to the people that had the asset that went up in value, that went up in demand. Like you're paying for that. Like the wealth transfer is coming from you. And so just sitting on the sidelines, like, it's like it's like a guaranteed loss. Whereas like if you're at least in the game, there's at least a chance that you can come out ahead.
Well, Michael, the micro strategy guy said it best when he said holding cash is like holding melting ice.
Literally, yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it's like Michael Scott's quote, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." Wayne Gretzky. Yeah, and that's kind of what it is. Like by sitting in cash, you're not taking opportunities. Like, which is fine if like you need to spend that cash tomorrow. Like you shouldn't put money in that you're gonna need next week.
Even at that, no, don't. But the thing with crypto, you can buy. Like I was just talking, like I said with my cousins the other day. I was like, but just putting $1 a day in, like Cash App and Bitcoin, like over the course of a year, is gonna be much better than somebody who's just trying to put it in when they get paid and like they're trying to catch a dip occasionally. Like just $1 over the time horizon is going to be much better than waiting. Like and it's just $1, but that dollar has like I mean, I don't know.
And it can excitement. Like I feel like my girls too, you know, my 18-year-old got a raise in her babysitting job and put it into freaking Bitcoin. I mean, that's, you know, she put 50, I think she put in $50 in Hex and $50 in Bitcoin. Like that's real. Like that's the realest thing she could do with that money right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Reserve currency, like reserve currency. I want people to like understand like how important that is right now. Like with everything that's happening, like Bitcoin acting as a reserve, like storing your value is so important. So important.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like, it's something that everyone will ultimately like arrive upon, but some people will arrive upon it at a big loss. Like, you know, it's, you know, because that's like the reality of it is that like not every water buffalo makes it across the river. Like not everybody
it's one of
can.
my favorite things that you say, Brian. I think you said that maybe like on the very first dip catcher, and I was like, yo, that's pretty cool.
It applies across the board, literally. I mean, even outside of like not every water buffalo is going to make it across the river, and like, you know, but you at least want to put yourself in a position to where you have a chance. Like sitting on the outside, like, yeah, you might be limiting how much you could lose, but you're also just like missing out on what you could gain. And I mean, some people are satisfied with that, you know, but like if you're really trying to like grow your wealth and grow like the scope of the impact you can make, you're going to need money. And just like having your money sit there idle, that's like not like, you know, that's not the way to fast track that. Like, you know, you need to, there are two ends to it. Like one, you need to be able to do something or produce something that other people need. And you need to take what you earn from producing things that other people need. And you need to allocate it in things that are risky enough to go up in price, but not, you know, not too much in any one thing that can tank your capital. Like, you know, if you want to gain influence, like you know, you need to do that. And like sitting on the sideline and like squandering your money or just like not putting your money to work, like, you know, you're not doing your part. Like, you know, you're relying on other good people to be gaining wealth and influence so that they can make the world better for you. Like you're not like trying to do that. Like if your money's sitting idle or if your money's being squandered in things that, you know, aren't good for you, then like you're actively like working against like the good people that are like accumulating wealth and resources so that they can like assert good on the world. Like you're helping the bad people. Like, and you know, some people maybe just don't even feel any sense of responsibility with that. But like if people want the world to be a better place, like it requires personal action. Like you can't just like rely on somebody else to make the world a better place for you. You know, because what if it doesn't happen? You know, and if you didn't do anything to like try to assert that, then like you effectively worked against it. And so it's like you like, you know, there's so many opportunities out there that like having cash just sitting, it's just like what are you doing? Like why? Like
Yeah, it's an extraordinary time. It's hard to imagine. I'm genuinely surprised, especially after our sort of, I guess, you know, Dan and I sort of used to go through this in the cannabis space when we were there too. You're so used to sort of speaking that language together at your work or, you know, in the familiar surroundings that you're in, then you leave it and you forget not everybody holds
the same idea, and I'm actually, crypto is, seems to be an even stranger topic than cannabis for me these days in the outside world.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, but it's been an exciting, like, I'd say that these past, like, I feel like every single week, over the last, like, pretty much all summer, there was something crazy going on in real time that we were able to, like, observe. Like, this has been so fun. Like what we saw.
Do you think it's this time frame, or is it that we just sort of put a magnifying glass on it and this is just how this rolls?
I mean, we're definitely like self-selecting into, like, like we're in the most exciting industry. Like, there's nothing else going on anywhere that's as, like, exciting as this. Like, literally, like,
Yeah.
I can't name a single thing going on that's, like, as important and as exciting to participate in. Like, like the difference between, like this and, like, paying a lot of attention to crypto versus, like, paying a lot of attention to other things that, like, people paid a lot of attention to, like sports, movies, politics, celebrity gossip. Like, you know like, broke people stay broke because they spend all their time watching rich people work. They watch the rich people work in the movies. They watch the rich people work, like, on stage at the political debate. They watch the rich people work, like, in the news broadcast or on Netflix or, whatever. But, like, in crypto, like, you're on the same playing field, and, like, you're not just, like, watching somebody else working. Like, you're like, yeah, you can kind of watch from the outside, but, like, still that's kind of the same thing. Like, but, like, actually being in the arena, like, you get exposure to that upside. And so it's just, like, such a, like, compared to other things that you could be spending your time, like, kind of like leisure time. Like, you should definitely be, like, spending your, like, productive, like, working hours, like, building up skills to be able to produce income, like, regardless of how good of an investor you are, or, like, how lucky you might be in, like, selecting things to put money in. Like, you should be, accumulating your income, like, through, like, other, like, productive things. But, like, as far as, like, things to, like, pay attention to, like, this is, as far as I know, like, this is the only, like, kind of, like, hobby or, like, thing that you can pay attention to, like, outside of yourself, that can actually produce you money. Like, if you're, like, the most, like, well-versed person talking about politics, or, like, all the news, like, all the celebrity gossip, like, you're not making anything from that. Like, you spending the time, like, understanding those dynamics and being able to, like, compose arguments around these things, like, you have nothing to gain from that. Like, you only have something to lose. Whereas, like, in this space, like, the more like, the more you can earn. And so, like, even like, outside of just, like, putting your money, like, into things that are gonna, like, help you compound it, like, just putting your time into it. Like, of all things you could put your time into, like, these markets are, like, it has that same type of, like, entertainment value. Like, there's winners and losers. There's, like, unexpected things. It's kind of like sports. It's kind of like watching a game. It has a scoreboard. You see winners and losers, two teams, the buyers and the sellers, like, they're kind of going back and forth. It's kind of like a game, but, like, you as, like, a spectator, like, you can participate in the game, and you can, like, be on the winning side or be on the losing side. And, like, whereas, like, yeah, like, you can gamble on sports, but, like, you're gonna lose. Like, like, it's just, like, especially now, like, because, like, all these opportunities that are coming up in this space, they're rooted in the fact that there's true financial revolution going on. Like, the world of finance will never be the same. Like, every single type of financial product or financial institution that exists in the real world, is being created in this, new type of decentralized arena where it's not like a financial institution that's lending you money. It's all people that like contribute to a lending pool through a smart contract who are lending you money. And it's not, you're not like buying stocks from a broker who's like taking their cut. Like you're buying them, in like a trustless transaction, like, no custodial risk. Like it's like a new world is unfolding like right before us. And like throughout, like even just through the course of our streams here, like the new, like the new financial infrastructures, like the groundwork is being laid right now. And like it's so important to like be aware of this stuff because like you as the person that's not aware, like your purchasing power and your wealth ultimately ends up in the people's hands who figured it out before you. And so if like you spend all your time like just like watching like shit on TV that turns your brains into oatmeal, and like you're not understanding like the financial reality that like the world is entering, like all these gains that like we seek after and like we try to get, like they're gonna come from you. Like the people who gain profit from having the financial literacy to understand this stuff earlier and have the patience and resolve to like take action, like the wealth transfer has to come from somewhere. And you don't want to be the person that wealth is being transferred from. You want to be the person that wealth is being transferred to. And so that's why like financial literacy in this sense is so important. Like if you don't know the rules of football, or you don't know like what teams are playing, like there's no loss there. But like if you don't know the rules of Uniswap and you don't know the rules of Bitcoin, you don't know how to use Bitcoin, you don't know how to use ETH, you don't know how to use Hex, like you're paying somebody. Like if you don't know the rules of football, it's not like your wealth is being transferred to the people that do. But in this arena, like your loss is someone else's gain. And so I think that this is, it just like makes it so much more mission critical to, be aware of these things and to put the time in to like learn this stuff, because there's no one whose obligation it is to teach you. Like you have to rely on volunteers on the internet. Like me, like literally, like to me, like I feel like this is like my volunteer work. Like I don't go and like, I mean I have, but like I don't go to like the food bank and like help like box food. Like I give financial literacy education on the internet for free, and like what if I stopped? Like, then you have to find, what if everyone who was given this information for free just stopped? Like, there's a level of like proactivity that you have to put in, because it's nobody's responsibility to get you up to speed in this. If anything, it's like at their cost, like with you guys, like all the Hex that you guys bought and all the things that you guys bought, I could have not told you, I could have not taught you any of this, and I could have bought that at that price, but like,
And I would be so sad.
but it's, like I think a lot of people like waiting for these things to come to them, but it's really something that like it definitely requires, and I see it play out, like, because like I've been deep in this space since like mid 2017, and like everybody that I am close with, like they've been fully exposed to all of this, and the number of people that take action, like it's very small. Like I have these texts going back like literally like on the day that like Hex was at like the very, very bottom, like texting people that I know, like, oh, well, go set up a MetaMask wallet so you can buy some Hex. And just like read, like, and that's it. Like, and what's sad is that like all these opportunities, like, price may never be that low again. You might have to wait for the next thing. And so like that's what's so good about like how you guys have really stuck with like really learning this stuff. Because it is tough. Like this is dense material. Like you really have to be motivated to like really start understanding and like to have the patience to like really stick with it. But and I hope that this uni thing, like that's just like just even further proof that like being prepared and just like being in the game, it presents you with opportunities that like other people just have no access to. And like and you all should be proud of it.
There's a resonance of this. I mean, I was really, I think all of this time, it was about 2016 that I was sort of introduced to all of this, or even 2015, where maybe I was even curious about it. But your voice in this has really, for some reason, yours was the voice. I mean, I had the resonance, but it's still a little rough out there, and you've just even brought a more smooth voice to it, one that I could hear, and I really resonate with your message. And I'm super appreciative of the fact that you're giving out free financial literacy advice.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah, and the timing of it all is so crazy too, because like when we started this just as Rona was hitting, and then I had just left California in my prior job, and it was like a uh, sort of unknown, like where I was going next. It was an intuitive feel that I needed change. I like, I'd worked at that startup, no longer a startup at that time, but like for 4 years. I was like, we need change. I had no idea what that was, and then Colleen introduced me to you, and then crypto, and immediately I felt it because what really what really drew me in was like the whole decentralization, aspect, and like this, like the there's beyond. I mean, we're sitting here talking about the currency aspect, but blockchain in and of itself, like it brings so much to the table. Like there's a revolution of many sorts sort of happening, and that's what we get with this. And so honestly, it's like I left sort of in the unknown, and then through all of this, we've just kept continue to show up every week, and I forever like didn't make sense, and still some of this, much of this doesn't. It's like still a little over my head, but I know that by showing up, I'm absorbing it, and honestly, it's radically changed my like outlook on my future and like what I want to be doing. Like it's crazy. It is insane. Like I'm so uh crypto, like I'm all in on building and learning and helping other people. Like doesn't like whatever. Like I'm not here to convince anybody. Like I'm not gonna like convince the naysayers, but I'll sit for 5 hours and help somebody who wants to learn. Like I'll fumble forward with somebody. That's how much I'm like into this and what you've given us. And yeah. Anyway, I'm like super grateful.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for you all like really just being at the stage where like you're really like receptive of this, like like you guys are hungry for this. Like it really helps me like like produce like good information for you all. Like if like people just aren't really that into it, then I'm not really like that like motivated to like you know try to like identify cool opportunities for us, and really kind of like like go deep on some of these topics. But like just like your guys' hunger for this information, like that's really helped me. That's helped me expand my mind, like just like in seeing like how my perspective has changed over like these months, just from like because like if it wasn't for these these weekly calls, like maybe I wouldn't be like so like actively in tune, because like I like every week when we do this, like I want to like like I want to make sure that like I'm giving you guys like something valuable. And so that requires me to like put forth some like effort and like research, and like be like really in tune, and not losing all my money, because how I would have like if I lost all my crypto on like just scams, or like losing it to bad investments or whatever, like you shouldn't listen to me. Like, and so I feel like, you know,
Right.
having you all there, like, kind of with me on this journey, like it's really like, helped me like hone in on the things that are like really high ROI, and things that are like, just like good principles. Like this has really like helped me kind of like formulate what I like, what really like what I believe in, and like, the like, because when it's just me, like, I don't necessarily need to have so much like resolve with things, and like, because if it's just me, like if I'm the only one that like has something to lose, like whatever, but like, feeling, like, kind of like some level of like, responsibility for like, helping point, like, you all, because you guys are putting this like trust in me, like kind of pushing, like pointing you down the right path. Like I feel like that's really helped me like sharpen in on my focus, and like really help me like, you know, improve my performance and how I like assess these things and understand these things. So I definitely appreciate, you all, with this journey we've been on, and it's been exciting. And it's just like the first 6 months of it. Like,
We're just getting started.
like we're the early adopters. Like what happens when it's like a whole different like arena? Like we're gonna be the ones that are prepared to embark on that.
Yeah.
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 This has been
Well, this was a fun call. I'm super grateful that the value of this is insane.
And on the heels of the uni, I mean, it's sort of almost like mind-boggling, really. Like I said before, my sister was like, "Wait, what? You got what? Like, could you spend that money?" I was like, "Oh no, I totally could get that money in my bank account if I wanted."
Oh my god, it just broke up. Look at that price.
Is
Oh
it
no, what
above
is it?
4?
Yeah, it's 411.
That's fine.
Bump the price. Yeah, this has been like, this was, this has been one of the most fun weeks ever in the space. I think it was like, kind of like the big sell-offs, like, in the last couple of weeks, just like, price kind of going down, and then like this kind of like resurgence of excitement. Like,
I've got a
I,
weird feeling that that's not the first time we're going to be hearing that or saying that. That there's a lot of excitement to come in this
uh,
space.
you're absolutely right. Like, never a dull moment. Like, you know, always something new, always new opportunities, and like that's such a blessing. Like, because it really like what else provides so many opportunities? Like, I truly can't think of like any other thing that you could spend time being involved in that on a regular basis, like every single week, there's something out there that you can like make some like massive return on. Like,
No,
literally,
it's
what
popular.
else, what else could, and it's, and it, like it, and just because of like how much of an impact this stuff has on like the broader world in general, like
Oh
like
yeah. Oh, I just saw my
serious,
unit. Oh my
serious
god.
revolution going on, and it literally looks like wacky food name tokens and pump and dumps and airdrops and like all this stuff. Like, it looks crazy, but like there's something pretty serious going on here, and like we're in the arena. Like, we're not spectators. Like, we're not ignorant of this. Like, we're in the game, and that's who the opportunity is going to be awarded to, is the people that are in the game.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for tonight's call. It was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Thank you for joining.
yeah, definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess we can kind of wrap it up here. Yeah, I mean, thank you all so much. This is a blast. Hopefully people watching this for the like on YouTube, like, you know, can help, use the information we gave earlier to like avoid getting ripped off. And as always, be on the lookout for good opportunities. Don't be afraid to take risk. When you do take risk, make sure you're not betting the farm on something that could blow up in your face, because you always want to have another chance. Because there's always a new opportunity. Next week there's a new opportunity. You just want to be able to stay alive long enough to see that one out. So yeah, thanks Colleen and Daniel for joining us here, and thanks for everyone watching on YouTube. Until next week, go ahead and check out the links in the bio. Join our Telegram for in real time discussion on these things, and we'll see y'all next week.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. See you guys.
Bye.